Hello everybody, and welcome to Gregg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm working to restore history one piece at a time. Tonight we're going to be doing part 6 of the 1929 Victor R32 TRF radio that I've been working on. In part 5 we started working on the radio section. The top end, we took some of that apart, cleaned some of that stuff up. In part 6 I continue a little bit of cleaning, but then we get into the RF coils. I flip it upside down. We're going to go through and check all those RF coils, the resistors for those, as well as the tuning capacitors. With the tuning capacitors, I originally wasn't going to take them off, but I decided the only way I could do it completely and feel good about it with my OCD-ness was to remove them. And so I removed them, we clean them up, I put them back on, etc. So without further ado, let's get with it and take a look at it. So let's see if I can manage to hold this a little more steadier this time. You guys aren't on the tripod, but I was going to show you a couple of things. There was a hunk of solder underneath this that was from the factory. It was just kind of laying there. I done knocked it off. I don't see it on the floor now, but I found that interesting. The other thing is these are all fiber, like a fiber board, and they're riveted. I'll probably clean this stuff up a little bit, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I'm not planning on taking anything apart. This all seems to work, you know, it moves fairly freely. I don't see a major issue with any of it. I'll check them, make sure they're not shorted, which I don't anticipate they will be. And we'll lubricate them, and then I'll get that arm back in there and back together again. But for now, I want to check these coils and make sure those are all good, and make sure none of the condenser assemblies are shorted. So I'm going to get you on the tripod and we will set that up. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're going to check here. If you can see right here, let me get my light a little bit different, maybe get the light a little bit better here. You can see right here, this is a resistor here. This is the R5 resistor. I believe it's supposed to be 800 ohm resistor. Of course, the two copper sides, that's the secondary winding. The black stripes there in the middle of that, that's the primary winding. When we look at the actual coil, this should be the lead coming off one side of the secondary. That should be the lead coming off the other side of the secondary. And the two down here should be the two off the primary. Now each one of them has this. One's a little different. This one here has the same thing, but has an additional winding right here, the copper winding, if you can see that, right there in the middle. And those come down and have the two wires connected and go down there. These, I'm pretty sure, are for part of the volume control. Let's go over and take a look at the schematic. Okay, so I've numbered each of these assemblies, the coil assemblies, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. On my chassis, I've done the same thing. Like this one's 1. I made this one up here 2, this one 3, and this one 4. All right. So looking at this, here is our R5 resistor right here on each one of these, right? Each one has the R5. Now, when we look at coil 2, well, go back to coil 1. Here's the primary, here's the secondary, here's the R5 tapping in the middle of that secondary and going to ground. Here is the C1, which is the tuning condenser, the big butterfly opening device. Okay, and then we have a C2 condenser, which you can't read very well here. You can see it better on this one. This is the neutralizing condenser for each one of these. And I'll show you that in a minute. And then on this one, on the one I marked as number 2, here's that additional winding, right? It comes down here, and you can see this variable resistor, which I believe is R8. It's blurred out. I can't really tell if it's R6 or R8, but I think it's R8, which when we come down here to R8 says it's a 3800 ohm resistance. We can see it's a variable resistance, and that's why I'm thinking this is our volume control. But anyway, we're going to check each of these on this chassis and see what we get. So let me get you back on the tripod. Alright guys, so I decided that even though I had said earlier I wasn't going to pull these tuning capacitors off of here, that the only way to do a good restoration on this was to go ahead and do it. So I went ahead and I pulled the first one off here. So I put it in my ultrasonic cleaner for about 15 minutes, and it came out really nice. Actually, everything's nice and clean. I pulled it off because I wanted to double check the coils with it off, and so since I took it off anyway, I decided, you know, no guts, no glory. I threw it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and it looks like it turned out really good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the remaining 3 off. It's the only way I can get them good and clean and make sure I can get some good lubrication inside of them and all the little joints. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull each of those off and get them cleaned. That'll also allow me to clean and scrub with the Barkeeper's cleanser the bottom of this a lot better. So I'm going to stop this for a second. We're going to test this coil, all the coils, with this out of the circuit and see what we have, and then I'll go ahead and pull each of those other ones off, and then we'll come back and check the other coils. Let me take care of this first. Okay, let's go ahead and check these RF coils and the R5 resistors. Now I tried to get as much of this on the screen as I could for you. You guys will be able to see this one. This one probably, you can watch the meter. Basically I'll be repeating the tests on all of them except for the RF coil number 4, as I call it. The one over here, it doesn't have the R5 resistor. So I numbered these in my own head just so I could keep track of the various tuning condensers to go with each. So I'm considering this 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the condensers 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's how I'm keeping track in my own head. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at these. Check the ohms on them. Make sure nothing's open and everything looks good. Now I don't have anything to compare to because the schematics don't give me anything. I'm just basically looking for uniformity between them to an extent, and that nothing's open. So that being said, I'm set up to check the R5 resistor, which is located underneath each coil on 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so we'll start with RF coil 1. We're going to look at the resistor here. We got 724 ohms. Okay. Now we're on the same portion of the R5 that is actually connected to chassis ground and the center tap. So that being the case, I should be able to check both sides of the secondary to the tap. So here's what I'm calling side 1, and it's 2.3 ohms, and side 2, 2.3 ohms. Now we should be able to connect them together here and get the entire coil. And we're at 4.3. Good, we're in good shape. So now let's look at the primary, which is these two down here. And we've got 57.3 ohms. Okay. So now let's move on to RF coil 2. We're going to do the same exact thing. Going to hook on the same spot for the R5. And this R5 is 771. The previous one was 724, so a little variance there between those. Alright, keep it on the same terminal there. We can go to the taps. So we'll see secondary 1 or 2.4, secondary 2, 2.4, and then if we just go into in 4.5, and we'll go to the primary 62 ohms. And then remember I showed you on the schematic the additional little coil on this one that I believe is for the volume. So let's go to that one. 1.1. Good. So nothing open on either of these two coils. Now I'm going to move over to the other side of my bench over here and try and keep from knocking you guys. Hook on the same spot for the R5. Right here. I can hook right here if I want. And come down here for R5. 729, we'll say. Alright, we'll go to secondary 1, as I'm calling it. 2.5, 2.4, secondary 2, 2.4. I go across them both, 4.5, and then the primary. There we go. 64 even. Fairly consistent within just a few ohms between all those coils. Alright, so good. So now on R4, as I'm calling it, there is no R5 resistor. So we're just going to go here and we'll check secondary 1, 2.4, secondary 2, 2.4. Go between them for the whole coil. 4.5, 4.6. And then the primary, if I can get over, I'm going to get underneath here and try not to hit my camera mount. 62, okay. So good news is all the RF coils look to be in really good shape. The R5 resistor, dog bone resistors, look within tolerance. They're supposed to be 800, so I got 724, 771, 728. So they're all a little bit low. Close enough. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. This is the part replacement part list. But when I look down, this is for the receiver. And so when I look down the list of resistors and everything on here, I have grid leak, half mega ohm, package of 6, resistor 400 ohm, package of 5, and resistor 800 ohm, resistor package of 6. There is no 600 ohm, so it's got to be the those got to be the 800s that I'm talking about. So they're low, which is weird, but hey, is what it is. I'm not going to mess with them. I think they're going to be fine. Next step is going to be to take the bar keepers to this, clean these up, and lubricate the tuning condensers and get this all put back together again. I'm going to take you off the tripod. I'll show you the tuning condensers as they sit right now. So here's the tuning condensers. There's tuning condenser number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. And how do I know that's the order they're in? Because I wrote it down here. I know that this is number 2 here. That's the one I did by itself just to make sure nothing was going to fall apart. This one went for 15 minutes, and these 3 went together in the ultrasonic cleaner for 20 minutes, and then they've been rinsed off with clean water and blown off with compressed air, and this is where they're going to sit until I get the chassis cleaned up with the bar keeper. I'll bring you back. So I used the bar keeper's friend on the top cover, and this was the result. It actually turned out really well. You can see where the rust was, but the rust is no longer there. If I actually get directly above it, you can see it basically is like shiny. The only spots where the rust were that still kind of look not great is right here, here, and here, and here. But I coated the whole works with this Bow Shield T9, and I think that's the way I'm going to leave it, because it's pretty much, you know, that's the way it was, it's original. Now the other thing I noticed when I was scrubbing it, somebody else had, this thing has had some abuse on it. I mean, I don't know if I can get the angle right, but you can see like gouges almost through there, and I didn't do any of that. That's the way it cleaned up. Same thing over here on this side. I don't know what the heck was going on with that, but it cleaned up pretty good. Backside too. Same thing. I didn't get this one as quite as shiny as the other side, but it's clean and all of the corrosion is off. Now I haven't actually coated this side with the Bow Shield, and I will do that. But I was going to show you that. I haven't actually started to clean this yet, but one thing I did want to show you before I cleaned it and before I started putting the tuning capacitors back on, I'd mentioned in the print about the neutralization capacitors, and this is one of those right here, and then this one right here. Each one of these has one. It's right here, and they're accessed by a hole on the other side, which if I can get down here, maybe you can see the hole in there, and the screwdriver come up from, well, when we get it flipped over, it'll be coming from the top, and that'll be the neutralization caps. So let me get you on a tripod. We're going to clean this a little bit. Okay, so I got some water here. Got some water here in a dish. I got the Barkeeper's Friend cleanser that I'm using. I got a rag, and I got some wire brushes and such, and a Scotch-Brite scrubby, and we're gonna do a little bit of work on this. And I don't want to get a bunch of water in the actual chassis, so we're just gonna kind of work it like this and see what we can do. I don't want it don't have to be perfect. I just want it clean. Now, one of the things I do notice about this, I noticed it when I was doing the cover upstairs, is that it gives off a, whatever this coating is on this chassis, reacts with this Barkeeper's Friend cleanser and gives off a little bit of a sulfur smell, kind of like, almost like hydrochloric acid type smell. I don't know what that reaction is. Maybe some of my viewers will know, but hopefully it's not harmful for me, because I can smell it. And I noticed it when I was doing it upstairs in the sink, but once I got the initial dirt off, then it didn't smell like that no more. Now you can see the black on the rag. Like I said, I'm not sure what all this is, but the Barkeeper's Friend doing pretty good. But as you can see, they're doing a pretty good job of cleaning this stuff up. So I thank you to my subscriber that recommended it. We'll get this cleaned up and I'll put some Bow Shield on it like I did on the top. So let me get this worked on and I'll bring you back. Okay, we're all cleaned up. I coated it with the T9 Bow Shield as well. So now I'm ready to put the tuning condensers back on. I may have to do a little piece of heat shrink on this right here where the power switch comes through, because that's kind of wallered and worn right there. But I'll probably go ahead and take the switch loose so I can clean it up, and then I can slide some heat shrink over the wires and down over the top of that. But for now I'm gonna go ahead and get this put back together again. I still have to wash the covers, but I don't know if I'll put those covers immediately back on. Well, I probably will. I was going to say, I didn't know if I'll put them on immediately or wait till I get the other side completely clean too, because I don't want stuff falling in the cans. But yeah, I think I'm ready to go ahead and start putting this back together again. Let me go get a tuning cap and we'll do the first one. Okay, so I've got number 1 tuning cap here, and I'm going to lubricate this. So what I'm lubricating it with is a Zoom Spout sewing machine oiler, sewing machine oil. That and a combination of this Super Lube multi-purpose synthetic grease. It's a very light grease. This is the grease I usually use on my tuning condenser bearings. So I'm going to put some on the shaft right here of the grease, and then we're going to put the oil on a couple of the pivot joints. So I'm going to put a little grease on this shaft. Doesn't take much because it's a fairly loose fit on it anyway. Not like it's you know, a super snug fit. It has to be loose in order to pivot properly. So I'll just put a little grease in there like that. I might as well put a little on, get it off my finger. I'll put some on that shaft too. It won't take much. Most of this is going to shove off when I stick it on there anyway. Let's do all of them. Do them right off the bat here. Alright. Okay. Now that I have the shaft lubricated, I want to put a little bit of lubrication in each of these little pivot joints here. Not much, just a drip. Guess I need to pull my spout out a little bit. There we go. Alright, so we'll put a little on the, just a little drip. There we go. That's even probably too much right there. Just a little drip. There we go, right there. And then we're going to put a little bit on this wheel. Like that. And we'll kind of work that in that wheel there a little bit. And then I'll wipe the excess off. And then I want to put a little bit of drip right in each of these little seams right here on each of these posts. Just a drip, because it'll work in there. Just gonna put a drip in there, like that. Plus, when I ran it through the ultrasonic cleaner, anything that would have been in there was taken out. All right, let me get this and work this a little bit. All right. Now we'll just slide it right over the shaft. Get our part to feed in the hole, and there it is. So there's not much movement here anyway, obviously, just a little teeny bit of movement on that to start with, right? But now it's slick as glass. Alright, our wires that we had, they're not really wires, but they're straps. They're spring straps. One goes there, and the other one goes over here on the other side. Alright. And this one goes on that side, like that. And then I'll just solder those back. Well, unfortunately, you guys, you missed it all because I thought I had the camera running, I didn't. But what I basically did is the big round arm that has these studs that actuate these tuning condensers, I cleaned it up, top and bottom, where it goes against this chassis frame, and where it goes against the top washer, so it would be lubricated. I cleaned it up, I put some of my synthetic grease on it, lubricated it. Then I added some of the synthetic grease to each one of the posts and slid each of these onto it. And then, if you guys remember, this nut was finger tight. They actually had it on a raised section. This should be on a flat. They actually had it bent over on a point like that. And I think it was this last one right here. I don't want it on, if I go to this flat, I think it's too tight. So I'm gonna back it off to this flat right here. And that's where we're gonna put it. And all I have to do is put my washers and my E-clips back on there, and we will have on the springs, I got the springs here, and since you didn't get to see any of the rest of that, because I thought I had the camera running when I didn't, we'll go ahead and resituate you here, and you can watch me put the springs and the clips on. If you guys remember, I had the springs, I ultrasonically cleaned them. I have had them nice and clean now, no rust, no tarnish. I had them in some Bow Shield T9. So we'll get this one first. I think we're just going to go in the order in which they were here. Alright, feels pretty good. Alright, let me go ahead and get my E-clips on here. A little brass washer that goes on each one of these, and then the E-clip. Being a little stubborn, but it's down now. Okay, so now I got to get my E-clips. 1929 they used C-clips. Alright, so to recap, we got all of the tuning condensers off, ultrasonically cleaned, inspected, reinstalled. All the nuts are on, all the washers are on, everything's been cleaned. I cleaned the bottom. It's coated with T9 Bow Shield, and so I'm going to consider this bottom done. Everything's working pretty good. Nothing binding. Feels good. Alright. Okay, I made an executive decision. These covers, as you can see, are copper. I showed you that before. They were really cruddy inside. I've cleaned them all out. I know they don't look real clean, but it is very clean. It just looks like that. But I've decided whatever this coating is that's on this, it's original, and I don't want to scrub it off. So I decided I cleaned it all up, and I've coated the outside with T9 Bow Shield. And I think it actually looks pretty good, and I think that's why I'm going to leave it. I'm not worried about it. Like I said, I'm not trying to make it look brand new. So the little dings and dents and scratches and squalls on it, I'm just going to leave them. I think I am going to put these on now. I'm afraid something is going to happen if I don't. So let me get these on. Alright, so I got those covers back on there. That's kind of what it looks like now. So I think this is a good stopping point for this part 7. In the next part we will flip it back over and we will look at the condensers on that side and check the resistors on that side, the coils on that side, and go from there. So thanks for watching, and from Gregg at Gregg's Vintage Workshop, stay safe out there.